The bass was so loud it made my teeth ache, pulsing through the night air like a heartbeat gone wrong. I pulled into the gravel driveway of my lake house, confused because I hadn't told anyone I was coming. Every window blazed with light. Shadows moved through the rooms like they owned the place. My place. The place I had fought, saved, and dreamed to buy. My hands shook as I searched for my keys, the familiar silver teeth sliding into the lock, but the cylinder wouldn't budge. It felt jammed, as if another key was already inserted from the inside. I knocked once, then harder. Laughter spilled from behind the door, laughter that didn't belong here. Finally, the door swung open. Chloe stood there, makeup smeared, clutching a drink. She flashed that smile I'd always thought looked more like a smirk. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice honey-sweet, the tone she always used when she wanted to cut the deepest. Behind her, I glimpsed cousins and relatives I hadn't invited in years, sprawled across my furniture with bottles in their hands. People who had dismissed me, ignored me, treated me like the family ATM for so long I'd almost forgotten what respect felt like. "This is my house," I managed, my throat constricting. Chloe leaned against the doorframe, tilting her head with fake pity. "There's no room. Guess you'll have to sleep in your car." With that, she slammed the door in my face. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home echoed like a gunshot. I stood frozen, darkness pressing against my chest, the bass from inside reverberating through my bones. The keys in my hand had become useless. My sanctuary, the place I had bled to afford, was no longer mine. For 28 years, I had been the family's golden goose, the responsible one. The one who fixed everything, paid for everything, smoothed over every crisis while they took and took and took. I was the software engineer who worked 70-hour weeks so Chloe could play influencer in her downtown loft. I was the one who covered Leo's rent when his latest get-rich-quick scheme collapsed. I was the one who paid Mom and Dad's mortgage when Dad's gambling got out of control again. It started small, as these things always do. A few $100s here and there. "Just until I get back on my feet," they'd say, but feet never seemed to touch the ground in my family. There was always another emergency, another crisis, another reason why I needed to open my wallet and keep my mouth shut. Chloe had been working on her brand for 3 years now, posting lifestyle content about being a young entrepreneur while I funded her entire existence. Her rent, her car payment, her designer clothes for photos, her expensive coffee shop meetings that she called networking. She had 2,000 followers and made maybe $50 a month from sponsored posts, but somehow this qualified as a career in her mind. Leo was worse. At 32, he had never held a job for more than 6 months. He'd start with enthusiasm, talking about climbing the corporate ladder or revolutionizing whatever industry he'd stumbled into that week. Then the complaints would start. The boss was incompetent. His coworkers were jealous. The company didn't appreciate his innovations. Within months, he'd be back on my couch, eating my food, leaving his dishes in my sink, and asking for just a small loan to get back on his feet. Mom enabled it all with her passive-aggressive martyrdom. "Anya, you know how hard it is for Leo right now. He's just going through a rough patch. Chloe is following her dreams. You should be proud of her creativity." Every conversation was a guilt trip wrapped in concern, a manipulation disguised as motherly love. She never asked how I was doing, never wondered if I needed support. I was the stable one, the successful one, the one who had it all figured out. Dad said nothing, which was somehow worse than Mom's emotional blackmail. His silence was agreement, complicity wrapped in cowardice. He'd sit in his chair, scrolling through his phone while Mom made her requests, never once telling his other children to take responsibility for their own lives. The breaking point had been building for months. Chloe's boyfriend Rick had moved into her apartment, which meant another mouth for me to feed indirectly. He was everything I despised: arrogant, disrespectful, entitled. He'd lounged on my couch during family dinners, feet up on my coffee table, making snide comments about my work, my appearance, my life choices. "Must be nice to be so uptight," he'd said once, after I'd asked him to use a coaster. "Some people know how to relax." Last month, Aunt Patty had started spreading rumors about me at the family barbecue I'd paid for. She'd whispered to anyone who would listen about how I was getting too big for my britches, how success had made me cold and calculating. The irony was suffocating. I was cold because I worked 80-hour weeks to support their lifestyles. I was calculating because I had to budget their expenses into my own financial planning. The lake house was supposed to be my escape. I'd saved for 3 years, living in a cramped studio apartment while my family enjoyed comfortable lives on my dime. Every dollar I'd squirreled away felt like a small rebellion, a secret fund for my future happiness. When I'd finally signed the papers, I'd felt something I hadn't experienced in years, pride in something that was truly mine. I'd made the mistake of giving them keys for emergencies. "Just in case something happens," I'd said, still naive enough to believe they respected boundaries. The first unauthorized visit had been Chloe and Rick, who'd treated my sanctuary like their personal vacation rental. They'd left dirty dishes in the sink, used my expensive skincare products, and had sex on my white couch without so much as washing the throw pillows afterward. I'd said something then, but gently. Hey, next time maybe give me a heads up? Chloe had rolled her eyes. God, it's not like we're squatters. We cleaned up after ourselves. They hadn't, but I'd let it slide, spending my Saturday scrubbing surfaces and doing laundry. The second incident had been Leo, who'd brought friends for a fishing weekend without asking. They'd tracked mud through my house, left beer cans floating in my hot tub, and burned a hole in my deck with a carelessly dropped cigarette. When I'd confronted him, he'd shrugged. Accidents happen. I thought you had insurance. Each violation had been dismissed with the same casual indifference. I was overreacting. I was being selfish. It was just family borrowing from family. But standing in my own driveway, locked out of my own home, listening to strangers laugh in my living room, I finally understood that this was never going to stop. I was never going to be respected. I was never going to be appreciated. I was never going to be seen as anything more than a resource to be exploited. The drive back to my city apartment was long and dark, but I didn't cry. Instead, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Cold, calculating rage. Not the hot anger that burns out quickly, but the ice-cold fury that sharpens your focus and hardens your resolve. By the time I reached my building, I knew exactly what I had to do. I opened my laptop and began systematically dismantling the financial structure that had enslaved me for years. Click by click, I canceled every automatic transfer, $1,500 a month for Chloe's influencer lifestyle apartment, $1,200 for Leo's rent and car payment, $300 for the family phone plan I'd been carrying since college, over $3,000 a month, gone. The family credit cards I'd been paying off monthly, the ones they used for groceries, gas, and emergencies that always seemed to involve restaurants and shopping trips, canceled. The streaming services, the insurance policies, the gym memberships I'd been covering, all of it, gone. I sent one group text, clinical and brief, effective immediately. All financial support is terminated. Please handle your own responsibilities. Then I blocked all their numbers. But money was just the beginning. The next morning, I met a locksmith and a high-end security company at the lake house. The party was over, but my home was a disaster zone. Trash everywhere, a burn mark on my new sofa, empty beer bottles floating in my hot tub like some dystopian art installation. I photographed everything for evidence. The locks were replaced with a keyless system controlled by my phone. A state-of-the-art security system went in, cameras covering every entrance, motion sensors, window sensors, all connected to my phone in a private security company. An elderly neighbor, Mr. Henderson, walked by and expressed concern about the noise the night before. I apologized and asked him to keep an eye on the place, giving him my number. I had an ally. The consequences hit my family within a week, swift and merciless. Chloe's rent check bounced. Her landlord served her with an eviction notice. Rick, seeing the money had dried up, started becoming distant. Leo's car was repossessed in broad daylight, a humiliating spectacle that the neighbors witnessed. Mom and Dad, who'd grown accustomed to living beyond their means on my subsidies, descended into financial chaos. In desperation, they drove to the lake house, assuming they could simply move in temporarily. They discovered their copied keys were useless. That's when my phone buzzed with a security alert. Motion detected. Front door. I opened the live camera app. I watched in real time as my family attempted to break into my home. Leo, in a rage, picked up a large decorative stone from the garden. Mom's voice carried through the camera's audio. "Leo, don't! We'll talk to her!" But Chloe egged him on. "Do it, Leo! She can't lock us out of our own family house." Leo swung the stone and shattered the French doors leading to the patio. The alarm wailed. I calmly did two things. I called 911. I'm watching a break-in in progress at address. The intruders are armed with a large stone. I can identify them. Their names are Leo, Chloe, Brenda, and Frank. Yes, they're my family. I activated the system's two-way speaker. My voice, amplified, echoed across the property. "Get out of my house. The police are on their way." My family froze. Minutes later, patrol cars screamed into the driveway. The officers, responding to an active break-in, took it very seriously. They drew their weapons. My family was ordered to the ground, handcuffed, and placed in separate police cars. The entire scene was recorded by my security cameras. The next day, I went to the police station. I provided the detective with the break-in footage, photos of the damage from the previous party, and a documented history of the financial support I'd provided for years. I made it clear that I wanted to prosecute to the fullest extent: breaking and entering, destruction of property, trespassing. The police allowed one brief recorded conversation. "Mom, tears streaming. Anya, how could you do this to your own family? We have nowhere to go." Chloe, spitting venom. "You'll regret this. You'll be alone forever, you selfish bitch." Leo, looking defeated. "Drop the charges, Anya. I'll pay for the door. Just drop the charges." I looked them straight in the eyes, my voice calm and final. Number, you don't see this as a crime. You see it as your right. That door you broke is the last thing I'll ever pay for. From now on, your choices come with consequences. Goodbye. I sued them in civil court for damages from both the party and the break-in, using the photos and video as evidence. I won easily. With criminal charges hanging over them, Leo and Chloe were forced to accept plea deals, resulting in probation, community service, and criminal records that would follow them for years. The family was banned from contacting me or setting foot on my property through a restraining order. Aunt Patty and other relatives tried to intervene, but I had my lawyer send them cease and desist letters. The gossip died down when the truth about the arrest and video evidence started circulating. Chloe and Rick broke up. She and Leo were forced to move back in with Mom and Dad, their lives significantly downgraded. Mom and Dad had to sell their house and move somewhere smaller to pay legal fees and civil damages. That was 8 months ago. Now, I'm sitting on the deck of my pristine lake house, watching the sunset paint the water gold. The house gleams around me, every surface clean, every room arranged exactly how I want it. Tomorrow, I'm having a small dinner party with real friends and Mr. Henderson. There will be laughter and genuine warmth, the kind I'd forgotten existed. My phone buzzes with a bank notification, showing my savings account has reached a new milestone. I smile, put the phone away, and pour myself a glass of wine. I'm not alone. I'm free. The house I built has become a fortress for the dignity I refuse to sell. In the distance, a loon calls across the water, its voice haunting and beautiful. It's the sound of solitude chosen rather than loneliness imposed. For the first time in my adult life, I belong to myself completely. The girl who used to apologize for taking up space has become a woman who refuses to shrink. The family that taught me my worth was measured in dollars has learned that my respect isn't for sale. I've built a life that fits me perfectly, and I'm never going back.